Okay, guys, we are starting with talking about opening your drainage pathways for detox. Because if you want to detox, but you don't open your drainage pathways, you're in for trouble. And so we are so excited. We have Josh Dech talking about how to do this. So welcome, Josh.
Pleasure to be here, Chantel. Thanks for having me.
All right. So what's step one to opening up the drainage pathways so someone can detox?
Well, the thing we have to understand is drainage pathways, like you said, it's what we need for detoxification. So the challenge here is if someone says, well, I want to detox, but you're trying to empty your bathtub, but you have no drain plug. That drain plug is clogged. So you're either scooping the water out by hand or splashing around making a mess. What we want to do is open that drainage pathway by a few different things. So we have to understand that our methods and processes to draining. So the first thing we have to look at are what are your drainage pathways? How does your body get rid of junk or detoxify? There's a couple really big ones. We have internal and external. External, believe it or not, your lungs are actually one of those pathways. You can actually expire or express certain gases and CO2 and other toxins through there. We have to look at your skin. That's going to be sweating. And these are your basic detox drainage pathways on the external. But the internal, we have a couple different pathways. So we have your liver is a big one. We all know about our liver. We hear about liver cleansing, liver detox, liver this and that. But your liver actually has 3 different detox pathways. You call it your phase 1, 2, and 3 liver detox pathways. Not a creative name, but it makes sense. We also have to look at your bloodstream, which also, of course, goes through in the kidneys. These are going to be your big ones. We've got lymphatic system. And these are the ones we're going to look at as your major detoxifiers: liver, blood, kidneys, lymphs, and of course, your gut, your GI system. Primarily, obviously, large intestine where things will get sort of separated. And so these are the ways that we can detox and drain. These are the plugs right now that are clogged inside of your bathtub if you want to empty this thing. So how do we do that? Well, number one, sweating. The easiest thing we can do is start to sweat. Because think of it this way. Right now, you've got this funnel. And your body is trying to detox all this stuff from this funnel. You're trying to dump everything that's in your skin, in your liver, in your kidneys, in your lymphs, in your gut. You're trying to dump them into the funnel. The problem is right now, everything's sort of overflowing because your funnel is all blocked up. There's all kinds of stuff narrowing that drainage. So you might sweat a little bit. Maybe you're one who doesn't sweat. You go, I'm not a sweater. You are, but your ability to sweat is being blocked. So what we have to do now is start to open up these pathways to widen the base of this funnel so that no matter how fast we dump things in, it comes right out without a risk of overflowing. And this is what it means to open your drainage pathway. So how do we do that? Number one, your body, your body has all kinds of mechanisms in it. Your body has all kinds of things to clog the drainage, to add to the drainage, promote the drainage. We have to facilitate that. It's not that we're physically reaching into the funnel and grabbing things and pulling out. We can't do that. We can't grab toxins out of the body. So our job is simply just to promote the detox efficiency of your body, which means number one, stop adding things into the funnel. Okay, so if you're eating junk food, you're eating garbage, you're eating sugar, you're drinking alcohol, fast food, fried foods, these things are adding to the funnel. And the first way to stop overflowing the funnel and begin draining it is stop putting stuff into it. That's number one. Number two, we have to talk about what's actively already in the funnel. What's stuck inside the body, your body can't get out. Stuff in fat cells, stuck inside your liver, your kidneys, your body's trying to get rid of it. It's floating around in your blood. We're going to promote those pathways. And the best way to do that is an abundance of nutrients. So think about these detox pathways. These are your firefighters. These are the actual firemen going to the scene to try to do the work, but they're ill-equipped. In order to have water, in order to be able to put those fires out, they actually need vitamins and minerals and proteins and all kinds of nutrients and fats, your macros and micronutrients, your carbs, fat, proteins, and of course, your vitamins, minerals, and water. This is the water that the firefighting team will use to put the fires out around the body and effectively detox and drain that stuff out. So we have to supply our body with an ample amount of vitamins and minerals and nutrients. That's going to look like the form of proteins. It's going to look at the form of a good mineral balance or a micronutrient, making sure you're eating quality food, certain supplementation. There are great liver protocols out there, heavily vitamin based, but it doesn't mean we're taking lots of milk thistle and just drinking water and lemon juice. No. We have to actually equip the firefighting team with the tools that they need in the form of vitamins and minerals and high density nutrients.
So I want to talk about one thing that happened to me a long time ago, probably about 3 years ago. maybe even longer, maybe 5 years ago, I took some milk thistle because I was like, okay, well, supposed to be good for detoxing your liver. No joke. I can't remember if I took 2 or 3 milk thistle. And I literally, my entire body broke out in hives, like complete hives. So from then on, like, because that was so traumatic, I mean, just imagine your entire body breaking out in hives. I thought, oh my gosh, I'm never having milk thistle again. But I think my liver at the time was just so toxic that my body couldn't handle it.
It certainly could have been. And something else to consider is you have allergies, right? Milk thistle is actually in the ragweed family, which is a common seasonal allergy. And I've had clients with similar issues in the past. They forgot to note ragweed as an allergy. We gave them milk thistle and they broke out, had a bunch of histamine issues, felt really groggy and sick because we're loading the body with allergens. Sometimes your body is dumping things. Like Chantel says, what she did is she took things for that funnel and she started taking milk thistle to try to open up this funnel and widen it, to try to promote what her body might be able to utilize to widen this funnel. But the problem is that things are getting stuck. There's multiple pathways. So you can get things from one funnel to another funnel, and of course, to another funnel. The problem is if one of these funnels is blocked, like maybe was happening with Chantel, then she added all these things in, milk thistle and other vitamins, it poured out, but then it overflowed into this funnel. So you have to supply every detox pathway of your body with what it needs to properly detoxify. Otherwise, you do run the risk of having some of these issues and actually making yourself very, very sick. So detoxing is a multi-step, multi-layered process that does take a fair bit of fine-tuning and management.
So let's give some different things that actually open your internal drainage pathways. So let's start with talking about water. Let's just address that issue and drinking enough water and what kind of water to be able to make sure, because, opening those drainage pathways, like you just said, you have different ones. You have your liver, your blood, your kidneys. So let's start with water and kind of go that way first.
Yeah, water's like the oil in an engine, right? An engine, if you don't have any oil, there's nothing to lubricate that machine. And so it gets really, really hot. It's going to build up and it's going to start to solidify or melt. It's going to fall apart. Same thing happens in the body. We need water for everything. It's how your cells regulate. It's how they keep things nice and fluffy and perked up. If you have dry, shriveled, pruny cells, they're not going to have a great job of getting things in and out of that cell. They need to be hydrated or lubricated through water. So by drinking an ample amount, I'd say it's really hard to ballpark, but most adults can do 2 to 4 liters. If we're detoxing, I recommended people 4 to 7 liters in a single day. Bring out, of course, adding electrolytes, but water is super, super crucial to the process.
So do you have a favorite water that you like Mountain Valley, like in glass bottles, or if someone doesn't have a whole house water filter and they're not getting it, what is kind of your favorite water? Do you recommend a Berkey machine, like a Berkey filter, or go ahead.
Here's my answer to that question. So obviously, kind of the top of the top is going to be anything natural. Anything that's been filtered and processed by human hands is going to have problems. I have a colleague of mine, and she actually runs a gut biome research testing company, and she's having gut issues because they recently found aluminum and uranium and all kinds of junk in their water. So they do have a point of entry filter, but like you said, Chantel, not everyone has one. Not everyone has the means to spend thousands of dollars on that or a Kangen or something else. And so I do like things like carbon filter, distillers, reverse osmosis can be great in whichever brand you happen to use. But if you're like me and you say, you know what, I'd rather go as natural as I can, there's a website called findaspring.org. And it's a free website you can literally go on and just check your local maps. Go to Canadian Tire or some sort of camping place and find these big jugs you can fill up, 10, 20-gallon jugs. And you can literally go right to these springs. This water from the earth. The world's greatest purifier is earth and mineral. And it'll actually, you can just fill them right up, put them in your car and take them home. I got friends of mine who will drive an hour or two to go find a spring locally to where we are here in Calgary, Alberta. They'll fill up for a month or two, just get all the water they need for drinking and load that up and run at home. It's quite an exercise as well, because obviously it's hundreds of pounds of water, but this is my first recommendation.
So another good question is, is spring water better than like distilled water, right? Because I have all these people, this is actually a big one because I feel like people are all over the map. Because if you're looking for water that's free of impurities, then the people say, okay, drink distilled water. But then people say, well, no, you shouldn't be drinking distilled water because you need the vitamins and the minerals. And if you just distill the water, you're getting rid of all those minerals and you need that. And it's funny because I just spent $300 on this distilling machine. And, it literally takes, no joke, to get like this much water. I don't know what kind of machine it is, but it's literally takes so long to get this much distilled water. So what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I mean, distillation is a nice process because it boils the water. It's like condensation. So picture you boil the water and all that condensation gets caught and then it catches the runoff and runs it through. So whatever is left in the bottom of that pan or whatever it is it's distilling from. That's how distillation works. But we can look at other systems like reverse osmosis and carbon filtering. They're all better than nothing. The challenge is, like you said, it takes so long to get so little. So you need a very expensive machine. And so you get more machines or they're bigger machines. It costs a lot of money. And so there is sort of a pecking order. If you go to distill things, you lose a lot of the goods, but you might keep some of the minerals. If you use reverse osmosis, you might lose a lot of everything except just the basic H2O. So it doesn't hurt to remineralize or a pinch of pink salt or something else. In my opinion, the best things we can get always are going to be straight from the earth, straight from the ground, straight from nature, because that's how it was designed impeccably to be healthy and optimal for us. And every time that humans get their grubby hands on stuff, we bastardize and destroy it. And then we end up with all these repercussions, either small or large, compounding for the long run. And now we're at a place right now in time, in the 21st century where autoimmune disease is on the rise and people are sicker than ever. Guts are the center of everything. I mean, even our water can roast and destroy our gut.
So let's talk about boiling water, because a lot of people think that boiling water is the same as distilled water, like they could just boil it. And I want you to talk about actually those aren't the same. What is the difference between distilled water and boiled water?
Well, great question. So let's look at boiling water in a pot, right? Versus this will be our distillation machine. So what happens with boiling the water? What you're doing is you're taking the water as a body and you're boiling it within this pot, and you're killing off if there's any microbes or bacteria or parasites. But all the water remains intact inside this pot, so you drink what's inside the pot. But the difference with the distillation, what it does, think of it in another way. Let's use another pot, for example. If you had this pot, what distillation is instead of just boiling, is you're taking that steam that runs off, and you're capturing that creates that condensation. That's your water, which you then catch and trickle down into the glass you might drink from, or whatever container it's caught in, leaving behind sediment and residue and other minerals or hard products that are residing in the water. So in a boiling, you heat it and kill off living microbes. In distillation, you separate the water from as much as it possibly can everywhere else.
Did you know that you can get all 4 of the books that I wrote, Waste Away, Fasting to Freedom, One Meal into Tasting, and Freedom from Food? You can buy all 4 books and get the ebook for free. Go right now to chantelrayway.com, or you can go to Amazon. Also, I just wrote a brand new book called How to Delegate Everything But Sex. If you are stressed out and are tired of doing everything on your own, go check out Delegate Everything But Sex. And there's all kinds of freebies on the site. So would you recommend someone kind of doing a combination of both, like maybe buying a distiller and drinking some of their water as distilled water, and then also going and getting, to that website and finding, really good spring water and having a combination of both? Or what's your preference?
It's all about access and convenience, whatever is easier for you guys. If you say, well, I want spring water, I want to go all natural, just make sure you get enough containers and have a vehicle big enough to capture what you need in between trips. If you can get some spring water and some distilled, even some spring and some tap water is better than all tap water. And so it's really what matches you, your convenience, and even your physical ability, because hundreds of pounds of water you'd be hauling from a spring. So is a distiller going to do it enough for you? Is a little $300 on top of the shelf, is that going to be enough for you to supply the water needs? These are things we have to consider.
Okay, so we talked about water, and, in my opinion, you guys should not be using any tap water at all. Zero, zero, zero. But let's talk about really moving their body in daily exercise. I just bought 2 rebounders that I'm trying to use every single day. But talk about the exercise that people need to do to be able to move their lymph, to be able to detox their body.
Yeah, I love that. So exercise is so important. Your lymphatic system works in a series of valves that open and close based on muscle usage, right? So when you flex and extend the muscle, you milk and push fluid through that lymphatic system. So being able to move even through vibration frequency, like a rebounder where you're bouncing up and down, lymphatic massage, you're physically forcing fluid through gravity, through manual effort, whatever it is, to actually push things around. The process of a lymphatic system is to move and carry liquids and toxins and all kinds around the body to effectively get it to the places you need to get it out, be that through your liver or your kidneys. Because your kidneys, they filter blood. That's how we create urine. And so lymphatic system, of course, helps circulate a lot of that stuff and remove it as well. It's part of that whole process. It's all integrated and it reaches everywhere in your body. So however you go about doing that, you can go out and you can do a rebounder like that to physically move. You can do lymphatic massage, but it's always recommended just for even general health and toxicity and hormonal health and blood sugar is get actual exercise, some strength training in a couple days a week, whether you're into athletics or sports in the gym or whatever it is. Physical movement is the best way to get that lymphatic system moving, to move stuff from where it is to where it needs to be.
Yeah. And I want to really suggest that you guys do the lymphatic drainage with the rebounder for 8 minutes a day to be able to just really eliminate the waste products efficiently. And for me, I know if I can commit to doing that rebounder at least 8 minutes a day, it's a game changer for me. So let's now talk about, you know, the sauna and getting that sweat on. Because a lot of times people are even going to the gym and they're working out, but they're not like, sometimes I'll go for 30 minutes and I'm not like sweating. So I want you to talk about the sauna and kind of the benefits of that and how often you think someone should be doing that.
Sure. So there are 2 different kinds of saunas we're going to have. Typically, you're going to either have well, let's call it 3. So you're going to have a steam sauna or a heat sauna. And with that heat sauna, there's another one you can get, which of course is going to be your infrared sauna. And so these are 3 different types of saunas that can make you sweat. Steam tends to be the one that helps people sweat more because it's physically, it's like osmosis. Like you get the water on you and you just detox and sweat and pull things out. Dry heat sauna sometimes. Now there's external and internal sweating, we'll call it. Okay. Big air quotes on that one. But these are going to be promoting your external sweating, which means you're getting things physically from inside the body to outside of the body in the form of sweat and beads of sweat. Whereas an infrared sauna, you can still get sweaty, but what it's doing is the infrared light actually penetrates deeper. I want to say it's something like 18 or 816 nanometers or something into the skin, but it actually is going to be for internal. And this is where you're going to start promoting better detoxification, better energy production in what's called your mitochondria, which are best known as like the powerhouse of the cell. There's tons of these per cell, these little battery packs, but using the infrared actually promotes better mitochondrial health, anti-aging, anti-inflammatory, better detoxification. You're not just moving stuff. Think from like your blood and lymphatics out in sweat. You're getting right down to the nitty gritty of the cells. Now, there's 2 ways you can do that. You can go and sit in an infrared sauna and get hot and sweaty and kind of combination affect everything. Or 2, like, I just want to sit in nice heat, dry heat. Great. Sit in the heat, go to a steam, whatever you want. But also getting into infrared light, even just basics like the sunshine, 30 minutes in the morning as sunrise is happening, 30 minutes at sunset as it's coming down. That's plenty of infrared. And that's going to help you dramatically with that internal detoxing on a cellular level. So think of it as a micro detox and a macro detox, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your gallbladder and kind of, you know, for you guys that don't know, your gallbladder is your holding tank for bile, which is made in the liver. And it's a crucial part of breaking down and processing food. So let's talk about the liver and the gallbladder for just a second and talk a little bit about the castor oil packs and how that can help with their liver and what else they need to do to help their liver be able to cleanse more.
Mm-hmm. So let's take a look at these. So we got our liver here, okay? And we got this little bile duct. It's like a little wiener on the bottom. And this little bile duct, like Chantel says here, is it collects. And so what it does, your liver produces the bile and it puts it into the bile duct. So as you're eating and digesting food, it can actually take it. If you got your stomach here in your small intestines, it takes that bile as you're digesting and puts it into the small intestines so you can start breaking things down. And so that's how it works. Now it's made in the gall or in the liver. Now, if your liver's having issues, it doesn't have the nutrients it needs, it doesn't have the macros and micros that it needs to produce bile, because bile is very expensive for your body to make. So it really comes down to less about how much bile we can create on a day-to-day basis, but how well we can recirculate. There's a process that we call, fancy word, these big words so you guys think I'm smart, called enterohepatic recirculation, which means entero, like in the intestines, hepatic is liver, recirculation. So what your body does is it takes that bile, it reabsorbs it, takes that, puts it back through the liver, it's going to filter and clean it out, put it back to the bile duct, back to the intestines, back and absorb, and on this goes. And along the way, there's a process of something else inside your intestines and many things that actually filter and clean that bile. Because the bile gets in and mixes with foods and all kinds of stuff and emulsifies and breaks it down. And there are things inside the gut that actually filter that bile before it comes back out and your liver refilters that filtered bile. And so the idea is to recirculate and keep it clean. The problem is you have issues in your liver. You don't have the minerals and the vitamins that you need or the nutrients you need in order to do this process of detoxification or methylation. Then you're going to end up with junked up bile that's not filtered very well. You're trying to produce more because you're not recirculating it well enough. You're lacking the things you need to create this very expensive product in the body, expensive in terms of resources. And so if we want to look at what we need, we have to consider what's called your phase 1, 2, and 3 liver detox pathways. You have to support these, which is going to be done through all kinds of things. But the basics we're going to want to look at is going to be some minerals. We're going to want vitamins, and we're especially going to want proteins. These are the 3 basic things we're going to need to promote these detox pathways to allow your body to most properly or appropriately filter and create that bile. Otherwise, you end up with stones and junk and inflammation. And people with gut issues who have this recirculation problem we're talking about, they can't filter that bile properly and recirculate it through the system. 85% of diagnosis of something called PSC, or primary sclerosing cholangitis. This is a disease of the gallbladder. 85% of the people who get this already have a gut disease, like Crohn's or colitis or something else related. And so your gut directly affects your gallbladder because of this recirculation. So we have to make sure your gut's taken care of, but on a higher level, we have to make sure you're getting enough vitamins, minerals, and proteins for that liver. Now, as far as castor oil, it's actually not a field of expertise, so I'll toss the ball back to you, Chantel, if you want to talk about castor oil.
Guys, I just want to interrupt for just a second, and I want you to hear Paul Saladino talk about why liver is so important. And if you don't like liver, we have another option for you.
Your ancestors were eating liver. And the reason that this sort of wisdom has been passed down is because liver is very nutritious. It's basically nature's multivitamin. If you look at the nutrients in meat, they're great. You've got zinc, you got B6, you got B12, you got some K2. But if you look at liver, it really complements what's in muscle meat. And there are many unique nutrients found in organs, specifically liver as a powerhouse of these, that are difficult to obtain outside of liver. Like meat and organs are like peanut butter and jelly. They just go together. They're supposed to be eaten together. The easiest way to eat liver is just to do it raw. If you don't want to eat liver raw, you can cook it. But the reason that I like to do it raw is because there are unique nutrients in liver that are probably somewhat degraded when you cook the liver.
This really is like the most nutrient-rich supplements that you can find, and they are amazing. I have tried them. I absolutely love them. So just go to heartandsoil.co, use the coupon code, and save you some money there.
Yeah, I'll do a whole section on castor oil, so we'll do that in just a bit. But I want you to talk a little bit about why all of a sudden, I don't know if you've noticed this, but there's all these people who are getting their gallbladders removed, and maybe getting it done unnecessarily. And it seems like the number of gallbladder surgeries that people are having is astronomical. And I want you to kind of address that.
Yeah. Gallbladders are one of those things. It's a byproduct of your liver, right? If you have to keep going into the hospital because you keep breaking your foot, but you keep dropping a bowling ball on it every day. It's not the foot's problem, it's your problem. And so your damaged gallbladder, the gallbladder issues, is a byproduct of a problematic liver. And so one of the leading causes by 2025 of liver transplants, actually non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. The acronym we use is NAFLD, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, commonly done or promoted by the Western world by high fructose corn syrups. Now, these are things you're going to find in bars, in snack bars, and trail mixes, and soda pop, and all kinds of stuff. They mix in everything. It's highly toxic, highly problematic, directly linked to kidney disease, liver disease, primarily fatty liver disease or non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. People go, oh, my liver, I feel fine. I don't drink. Why is my liver fatty? It's other things. It's carbs, it's glucose, and it's high fructose corn syrup causing the problem where fat accumulates within the liver. You actually get these fat cells. Now, picture someone, you're trying to get to do a physical job. You need them to perform physical labor, to carry boxes up and down the stairs. They're helping you move. Great analogy. They're helping you move to clean stuff out of your home. They're helping you detox. Well, imagine they are full of fat cells. They're 500 pounds, can hardly walk. Well, it's not going to be a very efficient job moving you out of your house. They're not going to be strong and capable. They're not going to be able to get up and down 6 or 8 flights of stairs. It's going to be a big problem. And so it comes down to producing and doing the job for your body, the physical labor of cleaning and detoxifying and cycling and recycling in order to produce what effectively ends up becoming your bile. This is going to inhibit it greatly. It inhibits its job. It uses too many nutrients, or it's not using enough, and it's inefficient because of the fat being stored within your liver due to the dietary issues. And this is where the gallbladder gets stuck. We're not getting our bile salts produced properly. We're not getting the vitamins and minerals we need. We're not detoxifying, and we're not cleaning that bile properly. And so when you put stuff out through the filtering process, or what should be filtered into the gallbladder to be inserted into the intestines as a nice clean product, it's not. It's like you're putting dirty engine oil back into your engine and wondering why it gets full of sludge. And that's what's going on and why people are having so many gallbladder issues. It's a liver problem, and the liver problem is caused by either your food or primarily your gut and digestive system.
So let's talk about binders, and that's kind of like the big word right now. And you want to have a certain supplements that are really important, that are designed to open and nurture your internal drainage pathways, kind of nourish your gut microbiome, extract the toxins, bind them out. What do you recommend as far as binders go? I know that you are familiar with Cellcore and some of the different ones, as far as, like the biotoxin binder or KL support. What are kind of your favorite things that Cellcore has to help open up those drainage pathways?
Yeah, they've got some really good stuff depending on what's clogging you up, right? So you got your liver, things coming through the stomach, the intestines, small and large, your kidneys, your body's trying to filter this out. And these products can help drain things out of your system. For sure, they're fantastic. The problem is we have to make sure the binders that we're using are appropriate. So we can just go stuffing down biotoxin binder. We can go stuff down the RadChem, the CT minerals and all kinds, but are we utilizing them in the right way? This is where things get really tricky, is we can do a detox and take supplements but get worse. Because remember, if we're not structuring things properly, we're taking a bunch of pills and taking a bunch of stuff without real direction or a why behind what we're doing. They may get 5% effective or 100% effective. You might get lucky. We don't really know. And so these are phenomenal products. But in these cases, we always recommend going slow. Because remember, this is all the stuff, right? This is your part of your body's funnel that we're trying to get stuff out of the body. But if we're trying to bind on a bunch of stuff inside and physically pull it out, it still has to go through another funnel, which will be all these organ systems. And if these organ systems aren't working properly, then we're going to have ourselves a kind of an issue. So binders can be great. They can physically grab onto stuff and pull it out and send it out primarily. So say, for example, we use biotoxin binder. It's got humic acid and fulvic acid, and it might even have zeolite or charcoal or something in it. But these are great things that physically go and grab stuff. Now, this is a pill you ingest. You consume the pill, which means it goes into the stomach and it goes through the GI tract and out it goes. Along the way, what it does, you have your bloodstream and lymphatic systems on either side of your intestines. They're all over lining this thing. And it takes those chemicals, those toxins, and physically pulls them out, puts them into the GI to exit when you have a bowel movement. And so they can be really great for that. But if your gut's really messy, you might find it not as effective. It can be really rough and hard. And so as long as you're taking them with lots of water to lubricate the system, they can be extraordinarily beneficial in the right dosing and the right context. However, careful with your dosing, go up slow because it can be very damaging. I've actually seen people put themselves in the hospital by taking a bunch of binders without really knowing what they're doing.
Let's talk about eliminating and getting to the place where you can, in my opinion, I believe that you should be eliminating however many meals you're eating. So if you're eating 2 meals a day, you should be eliminating twice a day. If you're eating 3 meals a day, you should be eliminating 3 times a day. And having that elimination out of anything, in my opinion, that is one of the most important things. Because if you want to open up your intestinal drainage pathways, you want to increase the number and the quality of your bowel movements, and you'll be able to remove solid waste more effectively by, number one, figuring out, increasing your daily fiber intake, exercising, staying hydrated, but figuring out how to have that 1 to 3 eliminations per day, depending on how often you're eating. So what are you recommending to increase the bowel movements and people who are maybe extremely constipated?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a big fan of moving things through the bowels. Like I specialize in Crohn's colitis. We're on the worst of the worst. Many people will go, well, I don't really have gut disease, but it's a spectrum, right? This is a terrible mark. Let me get you a new one. But you have a spectrum. If you're someone right now who doesn't have much going on in the gut, you're down here. Maybe you got a little bit of bloat. Maybe you're only having 1 bowel movement a day, or every other day you're having 1 or 2. Maybe there's some constipation. Maybe there's a little bit of acid reflux. You're on your way to becoming in a highly inflamed disease state where you're not having a bowel movement for days on end or weeks on end, or you're having 10 of them in a day. And so elimination is really important. Eliminating properly is really important. And so if you're someone who goes through and you're constipated, I will say, if you're having a bowel movement less than 1 time per day, you are absolutely constipated. And I would even argue, I'm with you, Chantel, it's a spectrum, right? So if you're having 3 meals a day and you're having, let's call these bowel meals 1, 2, and 3. Okay, these are our meals. And up here's our bowel movements. If you're someone who's eating 3 meals a day, I'd love to see you having 3 bowel movements a day. Healthy, fully formed, easy. You sit, you squat, whatever you're doing, and out it comes, 1 or 2 wipes and you're good. That's what it should be for elimination. But if you're someone who comes in and you're eating 3 meals, you're having 1 little movement, then the next day you're having 3, and maybe you go a day where you don't have 1 at all, you're skipping around the board and you're not being consistent. And so your gut is an assembly line, right? You start with the chew, it comes down to the stomach, small intestine to the large intestine, and out. Bunch of processes along the way that really build this thing to create your stool. And so it's an assembly line. But if your assembly line is off time, you're getting 1 product and then 3 products or 2 products and no products, then it's not an efficient assembly line. Something is wrong along the way. They're always trying to play catch up. And so if you're having less than 1 bowel movement a day, unquestionably you're constipated. If you're having less than 2, you're somewhere on this constipation spectrum where you're beginning to get constipated or your body's just barely keeping up. So how do we increase that? Well, constipation is typically everything in the spectrums when it comes to our health. Typically, I see constipation as a byproduct of inflammation or imbalance. And so that's going to be a couple different things. Either you're going to have a toxin issue, you're going to have a microbial issue, it might be a diet or a nutrient issue where your body's not able. Remember, the teams that we need, the physical builders, like the firefighters, we need vitamins and minerals to actually put the fire out. Your body needs nutrients to perform its functions. You have the factory, these are the workers. They're the things actually doing the job. And so if you have, here, I'm going to give this to you guys here. This is what I use to describe gut disease, and it applies to every gut dysfunction, okay? So this is my little Venn diagram. The first issue you're going to be lacking if you're constipated or on the other end of the spectrum, because there's 2 ways to not eliminate. You're constipated, so you're reabsorbing toxins, or your bowel movements are increased, and so you're not able to draw what you need to properly detoxify because there's not enough time. And so we have toxins of any kind. It could be mold toxins, it could be environmental toxins, it could be perfumes and cologne and junk and stuff in your water, fried foods, fast food, sugar, alcohol. These are all types of toxins. Your shampoo, parabens, forever chemicals, pharmaceutical drugs. These are all forms of toxins that mess up the assembly line. The next one is going to be microbial imbalances. Now, microbial imbalances This can be maybe your gut bacteria is off. Maybe you've got too much candida or fungal issues. Maybe you're someone who has like a lot of gas, or you're really smelly when you pass when you fart. And these things can be issues or signs of microbial imbalances. Maybe there are parasites. These are all microbes, little things. So that's going to be your bacteria, your fungi, etc. The last one, we're going to call it diet or nutrient deficiencies. We are not getting enough, or you're getting the wrong things contributing to the problem. Diet can cause microbial imbalances. Diet nutrients can be a byproduct of having toxins, not getting them in. Toxins can cause microbial imbalances and an inability to have proper nutrient absorption. Okay, so these are where some of the problems come in. Now, to progress towards your constipation or any kind of gut disease or other issues that will progress, we have some more things in the middle. But this is a high-level view of what causes some of your problems. And so if you're someone who's on the constipation spectrum, go back and check your toxins. Are you detoxing well? Are you getting what you need? Do you have the hands in the workers in the factory to physically clean out? And are your microbes working for you or against you? These are the biggest things that cause people issues with drainage detoxification to the gut.
So one of the things that I think is really important is using a bathroom stool like a squatty potty that can help. And one of the things I just learned that I never did, I went and got a colonic, and I read on her wall, she said that you should actually be like kind of bending down and almost like using the squatty potty and then also touching your ankles, and that helps it. And, you know, using a squatty potty and squatting, it relaxes those muscles and straightens the colon, which can help with constipation and hemorrhoids and straining. So I have a squatty potty actually in every one of our bathrooms, but the trick that I just learned is not just using the squatty potty, but almost taking your hands and putting it around your ankles. That is really, really important. And then I want to talk a little bit about what healthy poop looks like. And, you know, if you say, okay, healthy poop is usually like 8 inches long or whatever you think it should be, and the width of like a banana, and how should it be formed? Because one of the things that I think is really, really an important piece is that healthy poop should contain the right amount of nutrients and water, and it should remain intact when flushed. So what does that mean when someone's poop is not remaining intact when it's flushed? Can you talk about that at all and what healthy poop should look like?
Totally. And I got Bruce here coming for some attention. It's almost time for lunch, so he'll be joining us. So let's first talk about the different types of stools we have. So it's called the Bristol stool chart. Right in the middle is going to be number 4. This is going to be, call it soft, normal, and like sausage. This is going to be like kind of your ideal stool. Then you have your above and below, which is just varying degrees of either constipation or it's going to be diarrhea. And so these can get better or worse. Now, the question is, are they really firm? Now, a colleague of mine, Dr. Terry Walls, really enjoyed her. She described these. I forget exactly, but she was like pebbles and rocks and something and snakes and pudding and tea. So it's basically just a variety of like firmness to liquid. And so having a fully formed normal stool where it's you sit, it comes out, easy breezy, that's like textbook gut health. And so if you're, like you said, if you flush it and it stays intact, it's probably it's just the right consistency of things being drawn out and things being left in and everything coming through. If you have to strain and push or it comes out in little rocks, you're constipated, right? That's a spectrum of constipation. You may go, well, I have 3 bowel movements a day and they're rocks. Still constipation, it's on the spectrum, right? It's frequency and consistency that creates a healthy bowel movement. And so the things that will make that better or worse is, of course, back to our Venn diagram. Your toxins, your microbes, your diet and nutrient deficiencies. It's going to be a combination of what you're eating, how efficient you are with those foods. Are you pulling things out of it really well? Is your body inflaming or reacting to certain things? These all cause problems in the stool. If you've got greasy, oily stools, you wipe it, it's like oily, almost like you scraped up some olive oil off the counter, and it's got this, maybe it's floating, it's really shredded. You might have even a coating of oil on top of the toilet. Those are fats coming out in large amounts, not able to break down, which is an issue higher up in the assembly line. Because remember, at the end of the day, if Ford Motor Company produces a car and it comes out all screwed up on the back end, it's not the back end's issue, What it is, it's somewhere in the assembly line the problem was created. And so if you're having issues in the stomach or the liver in different parts of your digestive system, the end product is what gets screwed up. Oftentimes you go back and say, oh, it's my intestines are weird. Probably not. It might be somewhere higher up causing the problem as a byproduct lower down. And that's where we start to look.
I don't know about you guys, but I am stressed. And if you're feeling overwhelmed this holiday season, then I get it. With all the family get-togethers, it is just a relentless source of stress. But anyway, there is something that I've got called Stress Guardian, and it's actually made by Bioptimizers, the people who make the magnesium breakthrough, which I love, love, love. But anyway, they are literally made this new product. It has 14 adaptogenic herbs, and it just regulates your stress. I just actually took some right this second, and it's awesome. If you go to stressguardian.com/wasteaway and put in waste away for 10% off your first order, it's stressguardian.com/wasteaway. Go there now. So if someone has poop that it's constantly, as soon as it's flushed, it's falling apart instantly, what would that mean? Or undigested particles, a ton of undigested particles in your food. What would those two things mean?
Sure. So the first one, if it's falling apart, it could be that there's too much water in it. Maybe you're not drawing water out enough. Maybe there's low grades of inflammation, too much fat, right? Things that will cause this liquidy type of consistency, that could be what's going on. And if it's one of those things where you got whole pieces of food, it's an assembly line issue, because up top in the stomach, liver, intestines, you're not breaking down things properly. So when something comes out of your digestive system, it comes out in two ways, either one, normal time and it's undigested, or two, it's going to come out, in the context of this rather, it's going to come out where it is shreds and pieces, and you can physically see like, oh, I had a vitamin pill, and that's my pill in the toilet. I eat broccoli and I can see the florets, the green heads inside the toilet. That means you're not breaking them down. You should be avoiding those foods because your body's not utilizing them properly. They may either A, be the cause of inflammation, or B, contributing to the inflammation. And so that's typically where we see some of these problems. But again, it's an assembly line problem. The end product is not what you want it to be. It's not a perfect 4 on the Bristol stool chart. There's something up top along the way. It could be in the intestine still. We have to assess the entire assembly line to figure out where that's coming from.
Yeah, so part of the problem is, like for me, I know my biggest problem is I don't chew my food. I do everything fast. I walk fast. I talk fast. I do everything quickly. And I'm always in a rush for a meeting. And so I'm not chewing my food. You know, they say you need to chew it 30 times to make it like mush. Mm-hmm. So I'm not doing that. That's a major, major problem. What would be some other problems? I want you to break down that assembly line. So like start with
Sure.
First one is, it's that assembly line A is that you're not chewing your food. So that's a major problem that's not happening. What's the next?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about this. So I'm clearly an artist. So let me just draw our assembly line here. Let me get you a whole intestine. There we go. Boom. Done. Look at that. And we're going to have your liver over here. Awesome. So there's kind of the assembly line for the most part. Now there's different parts and pieces. You got your pancreas and little bits, but let's go through this. So the first thing, we have to make sure we're chewing properly. 20, 30 times is great. My grandma used to say it. She didn't know why. Turns out it's true. Because that mechanical breakdown, there's two things. Number one, if it's a piece of steak, chewing it down, right, creates more surface area. Picture if you have one cube, right, you're not going to have a lot of stuff that can really touch it. But if you flatten it, mush it, put holes in it, and it's this big glob, then you have lots more surface area for things like stomach acid in the gut, in the stomach specifically, to start breaking that down. On the other hand, there's another part of digestion that starts inside the mouth. And that's going to be what we call amylase. And so this is your first digestive enzyme in the mouth. And you can test this. It breaks down carbs into sugar. If you grab a soda cracker, like a saltine or something, and you chew on it, after about 60 seconds, it'll start to taste sweet, because the amylase inside your mouth actually breaks down those carbs, those starches. They're very simple. They break down easily. It breaks them down into glucose, sugar. And so that's one more option that we have for digestion from the mouth. It's mechanical and it's sugar. So by the time it gets to the gut, now your stomach can turn and churn and move it around and coat it in these acids and start to move things, so that these bile salts, or these bile acids in the small intestine and the stomach acid in the large, and what your pancreas creates, can cover more area and start breaking it down. Now, if you're someone who's high stress, you're taking antacids, I got acid reflux. I can damn near promise you it's not going to be high stomach acid. It's probably too low because the doors, the exit door and the entry door from your stomach are pH and pressure sensitive, which means we need volume of fluid, which is your acid, and we need acidity, which is acid, to keep these doors shut. And so if you're consuming stomach acid suppressors like PPIs and antacids or Tums or whatever it is, you're not going to have stomach acid. So once again, this is another place, just like not chewing, where things like your proteins, your meats, they're not getting broken down properly from that stomach acid, which means they enter the small intestine when they're too large. Now it's kind of like a bowl in a china shop where you have this big thing going through a very delicate area. And so it's going to cause damage, inflammation, irritation. It's not going to get broken down very well. It's just going to bowl its way through. And so if we have proper stomach acid, let's assume it's working well, then we get into this part of the small intestine. This is where a lot of your digestive enzymes are coming in, a lot of your bile from the liver is coming in, and all kinds that are starting now to work together and break down these foods. And there's actually different sections of your intestines which break down certain things. That's a whole other lesson. But the idea is by the time it leaves the small intestine, it enters the large intestine. This is where it now interacts with a couple of different things. Number one, you're going to start extracting water, and it's almost done digested. Most of your digestion is done in that small intestine. But you're going to have water balance coming in now, and it's also reacting with your gut bacteria. There are bacteria that are eating byproducts and finishing up the cleanup process. There are bacteria that are now utilizing those nutrients to produce vitamins and minerals and to detoxify and balance your hormones and anti-aging and anti-inflammatory. They're balancing your immune system, helping create immune cells through their byproducts as well. All this is done through your intestinal system. And so if you have right at the top, like a pelican, you swallow your food, you don't chew it all. You're high stress, you have no stomach acid, it gets through and nothing along the way gets fed or nourished. And so you end up getting these full undigested products coming out the back end where nothing inside was able to eat, digest, break down, and absorb. And this is where things start to run into problems. We have people who are malnourished. Well, think about this. If you're not breaking down, digesting, absorbing, you're not getting your nutrients, your vitamins, your minerals, you're not extracting from the intestines, because right on the other side of your intestinal wall, right, you've got your bloodstream and your lymphatic system. Things pass through here and they jump around and get circulated around your body to every byproduct, every part. And this blood goes, of course, to the liver where it gets filtered out as well and pushed back through. You're filtering 4 or 5 liters, or about 4 liters of blood per minute in your liver, 5 if you're a larger adult. And so it's constantly flushing through. Well, if you don't have these nutrients crossing over, or you have inflammation instead where these inflammatory byproducts cross over, that's what's getting into your liver and back into the assembly line. It's now feeding into the scrub. So it's really important to digest, to chew, to digest, have stomach acid break down and absorb these nutrients in the right manner.
What about if someone has gas bubbles in their poop? Is that like a bacterial or a parasitic or viral infection that kind of creates that gas bubble, making, the stool feel foamy, or they can actually see bubbles? Or is that like a Giardia parasite? What have you seen with that?
It can be a lot of different things. So I'm going to use the word microbes. Now, let's define really quick the word microbiome. Microbiome, you have them everywhere. We often associate it with your gut, but it's just a tiny community of microbes, right? And those microbes are going to be different things. You're going to have bacteria, you're going to have viruses, you're going to have fungi, you're going to have parasites, all kinds of different things living in this microbiome. It's a community. You have all kinds of different people in your own community, different cultures, different races, different ages, different genders, all kinds in a community. Same thing in your microbiome. It's just a very tiny community. You have one in your gut, in your armpits, in your scalp, in your mouth, vaginal, nasal, your ears, each organ, they're everywhere. They're like communities or little neighborhoods inside a big city, which is your body. And so if you're someone, like you eat, right? Think about this. You eat, your process, you poop, and that's your byproduct. Well, your bacteria, your viruses, fungi, parasites are all living organisms. When you eat, they eat. They eat what you eat. They eat the food in the microscopic pieces, which means they poop. But they poop either good byproducts or bad byproducts. They poop good things or bad things, things that help you or things that harm you. So the question is, are they pooping out good byproducts or are they pooping out bad ones? Now, if they're having bad ones, you have an overgrowth of fungi and other things that you shouldn't, bacteria and different things. Oftentimes we call them opportunistic. So oftentimes they take the opportunity to overgrow. High stress, antibiotics, poor diet, inflammation. They love those chances to overgrow. And what happens is they eat and they poop out bad things, right? Basically, a fart is like trillions and trillions of tiny little farts that pack into one big bubble. And so if you're someone with a bunch of bubbles or floatiness or gassiness in between stools, there's extra byproducts being produced by your microbiome, by the characters inside. In this neighborhood, they're producing extra garbage and it's coming out in a way that's dysfunctional to that ecosystem. And so if you have a little stool, little gas, little stool, little bubble, then it's byproducts not mixing well together, not being detoxed properly. And somewhere in that assembly line, likely that middle lower GI is going to be problematic. And it could really be anything causing the problem because they're all alive and they all eat and poop and they all produce byproducts.
So good. Well, we're going to end this section and go on to our next session on parasites. Stay tuned, guys.